Hello on YouTube, hello on Twitch, Northstar here with another episode. So Singularity Let's Play series. This is just going to be a quicker video, logging back in to grab some of the upgrades. Probably not actually the simulation upgrades, but the generator upgrades for the main simulation. That, you know, a little bit of offline earnings to be able to earn. And advancing the cat exploration here. I do not like these garden things. I don't care if you can do decent animations. This is a clicker, and they're not interesting to me. I wish they weren't there, but whatever. Should be able to grab some Felidae as well, and Panthera. Boom. Alright. Probably now saving up for the African carousel. Caracal. Gonna take a little bit. 9 to the 10th. Alright. Go grab those main simulation things. Check the other scenes too. I mean, I probably need a certain minimum amount of time here in this video for it to be interesting. You folks. Let's see. This is earning on the order of to the 6. So yeah, I guess Martiancy makes this, and Stone Age makes a substantial contribution. Or if I should just go for stuff that's cheap. You can get a lot of generators because of the capacitors. Alright. Just a revolution. I think of this as going back and studying these things more and learning more about them. Anyway, swans, shovel feet. Boom. This is, yeah, not getting much from additional generators. I have to just swap to getting whatever's cheapest soon. Let's do one more amphibian since there's more upgrades coming to that. Yep, I'm not going to reset now, but I'm getting towards being able to grab the Quark expansion, or at least modern mastery. Well, no, these are close to cost that. Still, more upgrades. Because I wasn't perfect in when I reallocated the research chips so that they're all, I guess I can show this too, so that they're all in ideas. And then I had to do a full reset on that, which meant a lot of the simulation upgrades weren't done efficiently because I was just doing hundreds of them in a very short time. Just repeatedly clicking on the upgrade list, not actually looking what I was buying. Just getting all the cheapest stuff. So it led to somewhat inefficient allocation of resources, but I'll recover from that, and eventually the increased focus on knowledge will pay off. So there's a lot more valuable upgrades to get knowledge than entropy. Based on, you know, how much I've accumulated, how much I have left to accumulate. Are there any things I can get here before a reset? Not in knowledge, I mean not in ideas. In entropy. Probably grab emus or diminished sight. That take too long as well. I've been staying a long time more, and I want to sit here just clicking. Alright, let's check the Beyond Exploration, the Mesozoic Valley. A viewer. Sometimes it counts myself as a viewer. And I have this open, Twitch open separately. Sometimes it doesn't. I guess there's some red dwarfs. These only have 6-hour cooldowns today. I want to wait. I guess I didn't check the Beyond before. Probably got distracted. Talking about things that interested me or that upset me or whatever, and not It's quite enough on simulation. Of course, part of the point of my streaming here, beyond hopefully getting to where I can eventually get ad money, monetize, and survive with my long COVID through supplementing Social Security at first. If I can get that approved, though I have to go to an administrative law judge hearing, disability lawyer. But assuming that works out, otherwise I'm screwed and I'll end up homeless and dead because I'm too sick to work. And if the government refuses to acknowledge that fact and provide the assistance they should be providing, then I will end up dead eventually. Nothing that can be done. The social safety net is non-existent in the U.S. People are saying, oh, there's like church charities and nonsense like that. Usually these things have like 0.1% of the funding that's actually needed to make any substantial impact. They exist more as something that people can say resources exist, just like there's a long list of government programs that almost always require you be in exactly this or that circumstance to benefit from, so usually you can't get them. It's just so people can say there's resources available when there actually aren't. And if you apply to a lot of programs, even when you should be able to qualify for them, there'll always be some excuse why you can't actually receive the help. Yeah, the system is deeply flawed, and it's deeply flawed because of billionaire control of politics, which is ultimately the way it is because of capitalism. You get some right-wing fascist ideas about it, ranging from anti-Semitism to blaming immigrants, but really it's just because of capitalism. But when there's obvious deep flaws in the system, and they're obviously not being dealt with, people will come up with all sorts of theories, and some will be correct and some will be wrong. Because everything has a cause. Unless you're going to go the way of just the supposed ostrich burying its head in the sand. The ostriches don't actually do that. It's a modern myth. And pretending there are no issues, which there are enormous issues in the United States society. But if you acknowledge there are issues, then there has to be a cause of those issues. And the system is not acknowledging that there even are issues for the most part. And certainly not blaming the right causes. Because, politicians aren't going to blame they're not going to really fix the system. They're only going to work on behalf of their donors. I mean, that cuts it through the problem. Until we end the two-party system in the United States, until we create a politics that's of, by, and for the people, as Abraham Lincoln famously said, although I vary on Abraham Lincoln. But watching up Ted Stormer, and he obviously really likes Abraham Lincoln. He's a YouTuber, historian. But the fact, he's a popular historian, but the fact in that he tries to make history accessible to masses, the fact really is Lincoln may have been an opponent of slavery, which is the right thing, but he wanted to establish brutal, exploitative, robber baron capitalism as the system, which was better than slavery, but not nearly as much of a step forward as society could have taken. It was very much in bed with the business moguls, and you see this most clearly in how he dealt with, say, draft riots in famously the Irish in the city of Boston, and I think there was, I forget if Chicago also had, was Chicago big enough to even, I don't think it was big enough back then, but there were various riots with particularly the Irish working class being drafted into the Union armies, and the, sons of the very wealthy families getting off without having to really do anything dangerous. They become officers if they served at all, and be able to get safe jobs in the command tents very often, from the ruling class, the ruling elites. The working class were drafted into fighting and dying in a meat grinder sort of warfare that was new. The Confederates expected old-style war, and then artillery and rifles advanced to the point it became meat grinder warfare, which the Union adapted better to. And the Confederacy also had a lot more industrial might and population and wealth. There was no question that the North was going to win the Civil War, and it's good that it did. It was a step forward, but again, not as much of a step forward as it could have been because Lincoln was soft on the industrialists. Now, maybe that was necessary if he'd cracked down on them harder. Maybe he wouldn't have won the Civil War. As it was, he was assassinated. Maybe he would have been assassinated earlier by industrialists instead of someone who was pissed about racial justice and desegregation and such. But I don't know. Lincoln is probably one of the better U.S. presidents, but that he was by no means perfect. Anyways, there we go. African Carousel and Saraval. Should be able to get another carousel generator, at least one more. And then it'll be ocelots next to... Or no, actually it'll be lions next, and maybe flexibility, and then ocelots. But yeah, Ted Sturmer does talk about it. The U.S. was a lot of the founding fathers never wanted a government that was up by the people and for the people. They wanted a republic that was controlled by a few wealthy oligarchs. And maybe it was disingenuous them claiming that they didn't anticipate the formation of political parties. The two-party system formed remarkably soon after the country was founded, and all the founding fathers claimed they supposedly didn't foresee parties forming. Maybe they did, and they knew that the system they're creating would lock us into a two-party system where ordinary people would have no voice, because when there's just two parties, it's very easy for donors to donate to both parties, and the nature of the voting system makes it so that you, quote, throw your vote away if you vote for a third party. You don't really, in that if you're in a state that's not a swing state, then your vote doesn't matter anyways. At least unless large numbers of people all take this attitude. Very large numbers. So a state that wasn't a swing state becomes a swing state. But until a state is a swing state, you can vote forever. And so the importance is mainly symbolic. So voting for a third party shows your discontent with the two-party system, helps build the legitimacy of those third parties so that maybe someday they can challenge one of the big two parties or demand an end to the two-party system, which we desperately need in the US, or else our politics would degenerate further and further and further. However, I don't see that happening. Which is why I wanted to get out of the United States before long COVID, because I saw that the two-party system was going to lock the US into a vicious downward spiral and things would only get worse in the country. I was trying to become a physician and go to medical school overseas and then just never return to the United States. I was going to try and go to medical school in Australia, then get a residency there. If I didn't make it in Australia, there was an Irish med school I was going to apply to as well. These countries both, English speaking, so I'm going to have to learn a new language, which I struggle to do. I'm not good with foreign languages. Although if I have to, I have to. At this point in my life, if I can get YouTube and Twitch to where I'm earning enough money, some of the better countries right now for immigrating to, and that's not saying much because there's anti-immigrant feelings on the rise all across the globe. As if suddenly a person who is a valuable member of society became a problem the moment they left the country. Of course, people would say as a disabled person that wasn't a valuable member of society, but that's because of shitty anti-disabled bias. Instead of trying to say cure long COVID so I could rejoin the workforce and become a medical researcher, or even try and become a physician again, or at least go back to my work as an EMT. No. Nobody's going to do that. Instead, they're just going to mistreat people with long COVID. Or pretend disease isn't real. Well, that goes into mistreating people with it. Should probably grab that mouse, even though it requires a Darwinium. Because I'm not going to be able to sit here and grab generators forever. I can only log on to so much, and it competes with my other Let's Play series. But yeah, so one of the better countries for trying to get self-employment visas is Norway, which is also a country that's, of all the countries in the world, probably furthest from going fascist. There's far-right movements on the rise all across Europe, but Norway is a relatively safe country. In fact, about as safe as it gets. right now. So that's a dream, but it'll probably take 5, 6, 7 years to get my YouTube and Twitch to that point unless I have a video go viral. So in the meantime, I really have to get Social Security because I'll end up homeless and dead within 2 or 3 years if I don't get Social Security. And that'll buy me enough time. I have no doubt Social Security will eventually be destroyed. Like, disability will just be eliminated or cut down to a point where it's completely unsurvivable. It's already barely enough to survive by future presidents in the U.S. and future, versions of Project 2025. Things are just going to get worse and worse. Austerity is going to keep happening. To give more money to the billionaires, even though giving money to the rich has never, ever, ever solved the problems of the U.S. Cutting government spending has never fixed things. The problem is not government spending. The problem is that the government is controlled by billionaires. And the more you cut taxes on the very rich and give money to the very rich and increase military spending, most of which military spending has huge profit margins that just hand money to the very rich, the more you enrich them, the worse that problem gets, not the better. So even if government is the problem because of billionaires, and the supposed solution of cutting government actually makes the billionaires wealthier and makes the problem worse. So it's, the dangers of a little understanding. People on the right in particular say government's the problem. They don't understand why government is so bad, and that the cutting government will actually make it worse, not better, and will exacerbate problems in the private sector with giant monopolies eating everything up. Meanwhile, the Democrats act as a controlled opposition. The Republicans just push things to get worse and worse, and the Democrats make a feckless, half-hearted attempt to oppose because they're getting money from the same donors that Republicans are. And then when they come into power, they claim that they don't have the votes to fix anything, no matter how many votes they actually have. And in their primaries, the Democratic Party will make sure that the most conservative possible person is always the candidate. There won't ever be like a Bernie Sanders type unless the party is sure that election is a lost cause, and so they'll do it just to appease the left. More likely than not, there will never be anyone left-wing elected from the Democratic Party in the next 30, 40 years. And the Democrats will continue to make excuses not to oppose the Republicans. The Republicans continue to push austerity, and the more they push austerity, the more powerful the billionaires will become. So I need to get the heck out of the U.S., and I was trying to get out. I was hoping to do med school in Australia or Ireland, do a residency there, work towards getting citizenship there, and after residency, try and work as a doctor in those countries. Residency fellowship, work as a doctor, become a citizen in those countries, and never come back to the U.S. That was my plan, and it was a good one, but, the COVID pandemic came, and there will be future pandemics, by the way. People say, oh, don't say that. These are either silly people who think you can speak something into being with no regard to the idea that, no regard to the fact that, reality determines our ideas, not their way around. We can't speak things into being. That's pseudo-religious because there's nowhere in the Bible that implies that you can do this unless you're supremely blessed by God or whatever. It's not something normal people can do. But usually these are Christians who think they can speak things into being. Bull feces. Freaking censorship. I'm not going to use that word. You cannot speak things into being. This is a fact. It's a fact that any observation of reality will tell you is a fact. Facts don't care about your feelings. They don't care about your ideas. Reality determines ideas. Our ideas are a shadow of reality, not the other way around. This is the idealism versus materialism debate philosophically, whether reality is a shadow of a world of ideas or the world of ideas is a shadow of reality. Any sane person who really thinks about it in the modern day and age will acknowledge that ideas are just a reflection of reality. Even though, of course, that is the philosophical foundation on which Marxism is built. A lot of people hate that, but you don't have to be a Marxist to accept this basic tenet of how reality works. And too many Marxists get this proud idea that they're the only ones who can understand reality, which is nonsense. You can have different people look at evidence and based on their prejudices and their biases come to different conclusions. That doesn't mean there isn't one truth, just that there are all sorts of things that hold us back from discovering it, which more advanced Marxist theory does acknowledge, but most Marxists have very shallow understanding of their own theory. I say this, I am a Marxist, by the way, just not a Marxist-Leninist. I do think elections are a possible means to establish socialism, but not in the U.S., and I'm not going to be enough of a fool to think that any other method will work in the U.S. It's impossible right now in the U.S. If I can go somewhere where maybe, not in my lifetime, but maybe if I'm lucky, if I ever manage to marry and settle down, which is unlikely with long COVID, grandchildren's lifetime, or at least the lifetime of grandkids if I were to ever have any, which probably won't happen, because no one wants to marry someone disabled long COVID. No one wants to have kids with them, and I don't really want to have kids with the world being overpopulated of my own genetically, though I would adopt, or I would adopt, but even though it's very hard to adopt, I'd be more than willing to do that with a partner, but I'll probably never get the chance to do that. But anyways, a couple generations in the line, maybe some Nordic country might be able to elect a socialist government as the U.S. weakens and loses its ability to prevent other countries from electing socialist governments. And China gains influence and at least gives lip service to socialism, if nothing else, making it feasible for countries to actually do it. And I don't buy the nonsense that China is not a socialist country. They are. They're just a socialist country with a mixed market economy, meaning they have elements of capitalism, in fact, very large elements of capitalism. Not pure socialist, it's not pure capitalist. There are cities where the economy is basically capitalist, and there are cities where the economy is basically socialist. In China, the most important cities with often the largest populations tend to be the capitalist ones, but there are a lot of rural areas that are just completely socialist, more or less. Anyways, where most of the economic basis, the farms are state-owned or owned by agricultural cooperatives that are basically, they're very closely regulated by the state and they're worker-owned businesses. Things don't have to be state-owned to be socialist. Workers' cooperatives are socialist, and there's rural areas in China where it's workers' cooperatives. Agriculture cooperatives are actually worker-owned as opposed to farmer-owned nonsense we have in the US that we call agriculture co-ops, but it's really a bunch of small businessmen that collectively own manufacturing facilities and advertising and stuff, but the farm hands, who are the majority of labor on the farm, still don't have any ownership of the means of production. So that's not socialism at all. Because people who do the majority of labor have no control over their own workplaces. Socialism is about work control, means production. Alright, well, a little primer on what socialism is and is not. A little bit about why I need to build my YouTube to survive. I don't know, I'm talking to a dead room here, though folks on Twitch, you engage. I'm not necessarily going to go on these tangents if I have somebody to actually engage with. It's just it's very hard to build up on Twitch, and I don't know, people on YouTube enjoy some of this stuff apparently, a certain segment of people. Anyways, I do have viewers who keep coming back to my Singularity series over and over, so if there's an audience for it, I'll do it, you know? Guided, of course, by my morals and ethics, but talking about things I believe in politically are certainly not against my morals. Right, well, I wish you all the best. YouTube, Twitch, all of you. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. May you always find a guiding star to lead you home. Till next time, this is Northstar. Adieu, and best luck.